Sorry, it just happened. So,
Oh,
hello. I This is Sanjung and Fabian. We're going to talk about our interview experience. It's not our experience, so we'd like to wrap up those like comments from the users, and we would like to move on based upon their feedback. And I have set up this mural board for the Geo team, starting from our nicely designed Geo future look. And I made some notes because we had already some of the like common patterns about the very first view of the Geo. So I think we could start like looking into this part, if you're okay, Fabian.
yeah, sure. Let's do that.
So thanks to the team, we have 5 inputs, and I realized it was really interesting to see that like we're kind of like more seeing the very first UI for like monitoring tool. Of course, like our current UI is also for the monitoring, but like how it looks like looks quite different. And of course, like there were a certain like tendency that the okay, we have to show the very first level of overview. And if user click on those overview, then we could show those detailed pages. That's how I see these drawings.
Mm-hmm.
And also there were like some needs from our team more about this visualizing data. I really love this like graph from tones. I
Yeah.
think there could be like better way to show this replication works or verification works. I think there could be some nicer way to visualize this. So we could put some like better data visualization on the very first page. And also some people try to mention the location.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be great if we can also kind of represent where this node's located on.
Yes, I agree.
So I think that could be our very quick summary. And also some question for me is like how shall we manage the other feature, like other very big feature like failover. For example, like upgrading Geo is also a big thing, but like we kind of like haven't actually think about it at the time because the task was mostly focusing on monitoring things. So
Yes.
I didn't expect to like see those things, but probably as a designer in the future, I would need to think about this upgrade and installation and also the failover things because it will involve some UI work for the future. So
Yeah, I second
yeah.
that. I mean, we have to like see where it makes sense, but I
Mm-hmm.
can totally see for the failover specifically, right? And also
Mm-hmm.
for the installation, maybe like actually this is something where a lot of interesting work can happen is like how can we also separate sort of upgrading GitLab,
Mm-hmm.
including Geo, or installing GitLab, including
Mm-hmm.
Geo on like hardware versus the like setup required
Mm-hmm.
to actually configure a Geo like
Mm.
system, right?
Yes.
And I think especially for like the setup part, right? We can do a
Mm-hmm.
lot better in the UI, right?
Yes.
But I think it's also like an open question for me is sort of where is the entry point for a user, right? Where do we leave the general sort of, hey, like you need a working GitLab installation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now comes the geo part. So
Yes.
it's it's interesting, yeah. But
And yeah, it's also a bit tricky because I would like to mention it in the interview notes, but like there are just like one person normally who needs to take care of the GitLab version
yes,
and then Geo version at the same time. So probably they would just think this task as one big task, like upgrading things.
correct.
So yeah, I think this is a really good point. So I just like
Yeah.
mark this down on the mural.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
And then yeah, I think it's actually interesting because from like the interviews that we had with customers,
Mm-hmm.
I think the flow that you provide there,
Yes.
the sort of monitoring workflow,
Mm-hmm.
I think I think one of the sort of things that stuck with me is
Mm-hmm.
that many systems administrators have their own homegrown monitoring system,
Yes.
which we may or may not want to replace with like GitLab's monitoring system. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's maybe a separate discussion to have. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the pattern that you described here, I think is really right? It's like most of the time you would go to the like GitLab GitLab Geo overview
Mm-hmm.
if you had a problem, right?
Yes.
And then, you know, like once you've detected that problem
Mm-hmm.
somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ideally via some form of monitoring,
Mm-hmm.
then you actually go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like people open up the Geo interface every morning to look at it and say like, wow, this is so nice, right? It's very sort of task driven, as in I've detected this problem, now I want to resolve it, right? So the user story here is really, you know, I want to open the like Geo administrator interface to understand which files weren't synced, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
repositories are not synced, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very true. Like, and it was kind of like not my assumptions at the time. So if you see the like behaviors area, like you just mentioned, like they 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 don't go to the GUI like every day or like really regularly. I think only one user group they answer that they go regularly
Mm-hmm.
every week, like once a week. That was because they don't have like homegrown monitoring system for the geo replication. I think that was the only reason.
Yes.
But if they have their homegrown like monitoring system, in that case, they always monitor those dashboards or data. And then
Yeah.
if there's something wrong, and then they just like, okay, there's probably something wrong on the secondary nodes, or I don't know, in some syncing is problematic. And then they decided to like come to our primary UI and coming to the geo UI. So it's like two depths because they have to come into the admin area and they have
Yeah.
to click once more like geo nodes.
Yes.
So this is already like second steps. And what we expected to see at the time, like, okay, like probably they are doing something on the UI, but until now we don't have like very clear idea like what they are actually doing on the current UI. But I realize, and probably you have already noticed that they go to the secondary UI first and check the healthy status,
Mm-hmm.
but like they were all the very, very professional geo users. So they already know that the healthy doesn't mean actually it's healthy. So I think it's mentioned almost in every interview that we had.
Yes.
So it's like very false positively alarming that like, okay, it looks very green, but they already know that it's not 100% green.
Yeah, I think actually they've kind of learned
Mm-mm.
by probably failing a little bit, right? Is that
Mm-mm.
the healthy indicator is really an indicator of like I don't know, like system health, right? As in, is GitLab like running, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and configured correctly, right? That
Mm-hmm.
is what it means. It doesn't mean everything is synced, right? Or
Mm-mm.
everything is in sync, right? Or there are
Mm-mm.
no other problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is really misleading, right? Because you always also have to sort of expand, right, the like synchronization information in order to see, oh, it's healthy, but like 2/3 of these files are not synced,
Yes.
right? So that's true.
Yeah, I could assume that like probably at first time they were very confused and then they realized because thankfully they're very smart people. So they just realized, okay, this is just healthy, but still we need to dig in.
Yes.
And they learn from their experience and they know that they still need to open the verification information and the sync information and they check the details. But the problem is, even if they found a problem, like, okay, like some repository is not syncing, but like I think one user, even if he is a professional geo user, but he looked confused to find like where to go and see the details.
Yes.
And this was mentioned also like from other users. They know where to click it, but they told us that like it was confusing at first time where to click on it to see the details.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And also some users mentioned that like the left sidebar navigation, we sometimes just call it like sub pages. The label itself, it's kind of probably vague to them. Of course, like now we know what it means, but probably for them it looks a little bit confused.
Yeah.
And this was also mentioned like twice, as far as I remember. And
It's also
mhm.
just now that I think about it, you have to go to a secondary
Yes,
to see the specific information for the secondary.
yes.
You cannot actually see all of this detailed information from the primary, right? Which makes sense, right? But that's also, you know, interesting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing was like, I think one user group or one user, they have very like multiple nodes already. And it seems like it takes some time to find the right nodes, or just they just wanted to monitoring at once, but it still needs some scrolling.
Yes.
And it seems not like a very pleasant experience for them. So
No, I think they said they, if I recall correctly, they sort of like just search in the browser for the correct string, right, which is the
yes.
name of their secondary, and obviously
Yes,
that's not a great experience.
yes, that was very true. I could agree on that, and then I think we can make some changes on this. And I think the last pain point that I found was like the separate information of verification and sync information. This was mentioned. um, I think that they understand the meaning of each artifact and then why we represented those data like that way, because they have seen the document, they have used this product for like some months, or they're really professional users. So I cannot generalize their like feedback, but still like they even mentioned that it's sometimes confusing about why do we need to separate those information
Yes.
to two different tabs. It's actually not the tabs, it's the two different accordions. So I think that makes sense. And if we can do something about it, I think they will be happy about
Yes.
it. But I think we need to think about like better solution. And I think I need to think about better solution, how to visualize those two different, it's actually on the same level,
Yeah.
but anyway, it's a different information. So I think I need to visualize this in a different way. I think I have shown you to
Yes.
Fabian, but I will ping the team if I finalize my work with some more visualized, like
Yeah, and I think it
stated.
can also, I think there's also this, I think we are incomplete in this regard as well, right? It's like you have some detail pages for projects, for example, and you can do stuff, but we don't have this for some other bits like LFS files, right? And so I think there's also, you know, there's sort of different user stories, right? It's like you go, you know, to the UI because your LFS files are not synced, and then you want to click on details and you want to see them, then you want to do something about it, right? And that functionality we just don't have at the moment. So that's also, I think it highlighted some of the like gaps, you know, the things that aren't there, right? It's like have things that are not great yet, right? But we also have some things that are just not there, right? And that's also something to look at.
And yeah, I think like the interview was like very valuable to me to understand like their pain points and their like current status and our current status also.
Yes.
And I think basically like, and also surprisingly, like they really wanted to solve some problems on the UI, because my assumptions was because they're so used to like using the terminal, and then probably they can just like use the rake test and then some of the very familiar comments that they can use. But still, like they really wanted to solve the problem on the UI, because if something happens, they need to anyway check the UI for like
I think
for the Geo UI.
I think you're actually right there, because it's like, I think for like what I've found, or like my impression was,
Mm-mm,
if they have to go there anyways, right?
mm-mm,
Even if they are capable of figuring out what to do next, right?
mm-mm,
That's more work, right? It's
mm-mm,
like you have to like switch context. You have to go, like, I think we had one instance where a user went into like the Postgres database, right?
mm-mm,
It's like, and they were not like, they were able to do it, right?
yep.
But is it a delightful experience? Not really, right? And I think if you just can sort of mitigate or like solve most of your problems
Mm-mm,
where you are, right, that makes you more productive, right?
yes.
And this is the, I think the differences will come like, okay, if solving the problem means I have to,
Mm-hmm,
like, I have, let's say I have 1,000 LFS files that are
mm-mm,
not replicated correctly, and I only
mm-mm,
have a single button, right, to like
mm-mm,
retry like them one by one, clicking 1,000 times. People will not
mm-hmm,
do that. You know, they may go to the command line, but then maybe we
mm-hmm.
need something like a batch processing, right?
Yes.
And then that goes away. So I think it's more of like, if the things that they would do on the command line actually work
Mm-hmm,
on the graphical user interface where they are
mm-hmm.
already, it felt like they would just do it there, because
Yes.
why not?
Why not? Yeah, I think this is like what they have questioned about, like why not?
Yeah.
Of course, they will understand like it will be hard for us to implement everything at once, but still what they expected was like, I want to solve this problem on the UI because I have found the problem on the UI and I want to
Yes,
make this clear up. So
I
yeah, I
agree.
think this is like what they expected, and this is like really like very very simple summarized version. We had like a lot of like long notes from
Yes,
their comments, but I just try to be really like simple. And I think we cannot cover the number 2 and 3 section today,
but we can do
but
that
what,
on Monday. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. So what we can do is based upon their comments, so this, the number 2 exercise is a little bit different. So it seems like they are having a problem. Of course, they already used to it, but still they want to see this information and they want to explore this information more in an easy way. Of course, like I don't know yet, but I think this activity will help me to build the next UI in a very like low fidelity level, like that if we could like regroup these things together, and I don't know, and then I would like to see some of the hierarchy if there is any, and based upon that I think I can change the little bit of visual things on the UI and
Mm-hmm.
then show the same information with the different, I mean version is, it could be just like different version of the design, and see how it works with the user. And
Yeah,
I think this should apply to the very first iteration, I
I
hope.
think that would be great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this activity will work in that way. And this number 3 activity will be very closely linked to this interview outcomes. So I think we have some more ideas with the new feature,
Mhm.
or I don't know, with how we improve the current UI. I think you have some idea. I had some idea. I didn't put that ideas yet.
Yes.
But if we use this policy to like, okay, like this was our idea, and then if we kind of like make things up and we can map those things into this very basic and famous diagram. Okay, this is like high user value, but this will takes a lot of time. Oh my God.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I think this like mapping activity will help us to kind of like select the right direction for the next coming few milestones and to fill in our backlog.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really nice. I think we should for the next exercise, I think we should maybe invite the team as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we could also just a thought, you know, we
Mm-hmm.
could run a first session with some of the team members, but leave
Mm-hmm.
this open for like people to like asynchronously add some post-its in here as well if we
Mm-hmm.
are in
Mm-hmm.
different time zones, so we can they have a chance to contribute as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, like just having one synchronous session, and after that, like some people like didn't have time or out of the office, so if
Yes,
they're absent for any reason, then they can just like contribute on it with this mural link.
sounds great.
And if they don't like some of the comments, they can just remove it, or I don't know. No,
Yeah,
they
they can
can
just
just.
like, and then
I
Fabian
don't like
came
this
in and
design.
deleted all
Yes.
ideas.
I'll just remove your sketching. Like, okay,
Exactly.
this should be go away.
Yeah,
No.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that would work, and I have to set up another call for this
Yeah,
on
I think that
Monday.
would be great, but we can post this already for the team to take a look.
Yes, of course.
Exciting. I think actually we have enough information from our users now
Mm-hmm.
to really like go in and spec this out and
Yes.
start implementing some of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that we got this valuable inputs from the users,
Yes.
and now I have some ideas what to do. So I'm very
Yep.
excited.
Me too. Cool.
Yay! So I'll stop recording. How can I stop recording? I see.